Well, the previous video gave you an overview of different economic activities and an understanding of how an individual is related to the mainstream economy. We saw that consumption is done with an ultimate quest for satisfaction but leads to depletion of resources. On the other hand, we found that economic activities of production, investment, and even distribution is aimed at generating further resources through profits, returns on investments, and all such measures. We also noticed that the economic activities, whether it is production, consumption, or distribution, are all directed towards allocation of resources wisely in order to achieve satisfaction and also for generation of resources for future. We also found how an individual tries to optimally administer his limited resources in all acts of consumption and production through different decisions related to choice, sacrifice, trade-offs, and it's a complete cost-benefit analysis that goes into every economic activity. And last but not the least, we also saw how an individual connects to the mainstream economy, whether for consumption or for production or for being a factor of production. And this also shows how trade makes everyone better off, in the sense that if person X wants to consume certain goods and services, it is through the trade that these resources or these goods and services are made available to him, and the goods and services that one is willing to produce or is capable of producing can be made available to different sections of the society, though with an intent to earn profits, but one ends up making others better off. So this was an overview of the entire economic activities and at micro and macro level how an individual is connected to the entire economy. We shall now move ahead understanding the different features and characteristics of economics by virtue of this abstract understanding that we had in the previous lecture. So we can now enlist the different features and characteristics of economics based on what we experienced in the previous lecture. So let us understand the features and characteristics of economics in general. So we can say that economics is a social science. Economics is a social science. We may also call it a decision science, but primarily economics is a social science in the sense that it deals with people, with their behavior and different sections of society, the way they behave. So the social science can further be considered as micro and macro in nature. So economics is a social science which studies human behavior at micro level, at individual levels, and also studies the same behavior at macro level. When we talk of microeconomics, we are dealing with the study of individuals, the individual firms, as individual entities. We may also include households as individual entities and the producer firms as individual entities here, whereas macro deals with aggregate approach and aggregates. For instance, when we talk about an entire industry or an economy, however, there's a very thin line between the two. We may also say that an element which is macro to some extent ends up becoming micro when we increase the span of our studies. Then economics can also be considered to be dealing with various problems, including the problem of scarcity, which further leads to the problem of choice, or we may call it decision making. The problem of choice might also include postponement decisions of buying certain commodities now in place of some other commodities because of the scarcity of resources. And this would also lead to optimum utilization or allocation and even administration of resources. So we studied that whether it is consumption or production or distribution or investment, one has to allocate his or her resources, whether time, efforts or money, wisely in order to obtain better returns out of same. whether directly in terms of satisfaction or in terms of profits or returns on investment. So it's in a way a study or a decision science that deals with the cost benefit analysis, of how an individual assesses his decisions in terms of the pros and the cons, and tries to extract the maximum benefits out of it. We also saw that economics involves a lot of economic activities which range from general economic activities which range from consumption, which is the initial economic activity which drives the demand, and then further the production which leads to the supply of goods and services. And the other activities could be distribution, which connects the production and the consumption activities, and investments could also be the other form of economic activities. And so economics not only deals with the allocation of resources, but the ultimate goal of this is that it deals with allocation of whether it is money, wealth, or time or efforts in order to attain wealth as a means to welfare. So we may say that economics is a study of wealth as a means for welfare, and hence the goal of economics is not only wealth maximization but also welfare maximization. So wealth and welfare maximization can also be considered as an important goal of a study of economics. And last but not the least, it not only studies how trade makes everyone better off by linking the individuals in the process of consumption, in the process of production, in the process of distribution, investment together, but also it not only deals with the present but also deals with decisions which are taken keeping the future in mind. That means that if one produces or intends to produce certain things, there would be a gestation period which would involve allocation and investment of resources, but after a point in time when the production takes place, these goods and services can be made available to different sections of the society. This also applies to investment decisions, where the decisions taken now are targeted towards generation of resources in future. So economics definitely not only deals with the decisions related to present, but it is also studied from the future point of time. So there is a future perspective attached to all economic activities. So this was just a not completely exhaustive, but an overview of certain very important characteristics or features of economics, where it says that economics is a social science which has micro and macro character. It deals with the problems of choice and scarcity, which would include economic decisions related to scarcity, trade-offs, opportunity cost analysis, marginal analysis, incremental analysis, and various other forms of analysis which we'll study in future. So it's also a decision science which deals with optimum allocation or administration of resources. So we may call it a decision science here, a decision science. And economics deals with the cost-benefit analysis behind every decision. And the various range of economic activities can be categorized as consumption, production, distribution, investments. And wealth which is the most important means which we try to attain through the application of economics, and for the ultimate purpose of attaining welfare. So the objective of economics could be considered as generating wealth as a means for attainment of welfare. In fact, we say that economics strikes a balance between unlimited wants and limited resources, and deals with the entire range of activities which studies or which could be termed as an inquiry into the ways by which an individual earns his income and how he spends it. So it's the study of an ordinary man's business of life, how he deals with his income, the generation of income, and how he spends it for the purpose of attainment of welfare. And it also has a future perspective attached to it. That is, all economic decisions are not only taken or executed keeping the present in mind, but also the ultimate quest for satisfaction in future. So in the next tutorial, we shall discuss the circular flow of income within an economy.